Hello team and welcome back to Sunday Vibes. We have a huge show for you today coming from the Phoenix in Cavendish Square. Come and get your beers here. I'm joined by Zach Chelab, by Michael McCubbin, because Pat and Joe have bottled today's episode. It's a big one. It's our pre-season predictions. This is always where we make a rod for our own backs. And inevitably, Joe watches this in 8 months' time and we need to talk and mocks us for numerous shouts. But, you know, you two made of sterner stuff.
I don't know about that.
Arguable.
Joe and Pat covering their backs here, but how are you? Is that,
yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Excited for the season start. Crazily in just a week's time. Championship starts today. And we've got some big topics to cover, that's for sure.
We've got some huge topics. And we've drafted you in so we can actually talk about European football with a degree of authority.
Yeah, okay.
Pressure's on.
Don't count on that as well. But yeah, it's nice. My annual appearance on Sunday Vibes, and it just so happens to be the one where there is a big humiliation factor. So yeah, I am raring to go.
Nice. Well, you know, Mystic Mike. This is firmly within your skill set, so I'm expecting some great shouts from you today. Right, I mean, if it hasn't become clear, we're going to make our 22-23 pre-season predictions, and we asked you guys at home and the guys on the Discord to get in some novel categories, let's say. There's plenty of them. We're not just going to do the obvious ones. In fact, we're going to stick the obvious ones at the end of the show and start with sack race. We're going to keep these Premier League based until the end. Then we'll move on to the continent just to bring a sense of balance to it. But we're going to begin with the sack race. We're kicking off on quite a negative footing. I mean, just to give you guys some context, the bookie's favourite to get the chop is Frank Lampard at 7-2. And then it's Ralph Hasenhüttl at 9-2 and Jesse Marsch at 6-1. They're your three favourites. Do any of them coincide with your take on this?
Not necessarily, actually. Weirdly, I do think Frank Lampard is in a bit of danger. Having said that, I do think we maybe didn't give him enough credit towards the end of last season, where he did kind of switch up Everton's style of play. They did become a bit more conservative, a little bit more relegation battle-y. Having said that, obviously lost Richarlison. I think they're best all-round player, isn't he? Tarkowski and McNeil are good signings, but still it's still an unbalanced squad, isn't it? However, I think what counts in Frank Lampard's favour is that the ownership is held in such bad regard by the fans, and Frank Lampard actually does have the fans on his side, so
he doesn't take all the heat.
I feel like it would be unwise for them to move, even if they were to lose like 4 of their first 6 games. I think it would be unwise for them to sack Lampard. I actually think someone like Bruno Lage is maybe in a bit more trouble. I think Wolves were very uninspiring towards the end of last season.
I could not be more critical of Wolves towards the end of the season. They were so boring.
Yeah, and when they're not getting results like that, that kind of style of football doesn't really, doesn't get many fans, does it? Their business has been pretty limited, hasn't it? Nathan Collins making Hwang, permanent, which I think was actually confirmed in January. So they haven't made huge strides to improve the squad. Obviously, we're filming this with a month left of the transfer window to go, aren't we? So a lot of these predictions are, influenced by what has been, only 2/3 of the window so far. But having said that, I think they ranked second bottom for XG last season. I feel like if Wolves have a tough start, and they could do, I think they've got, they've got a fair amount of easy games to begin with, but if they don't pick up enough points in those games, they then have Liverpool and City back to back in September. I do feel that's a bit of a worry, especially with Jimenez now out for at least a month. So the one plus side, obviously, they've got Pedro Neto coming back in, but again, over-reliant on a player who hasn't played much football in a year. So I feel like him, and I think probably just Eddie Howe, Eddie Howe's successor, Scott Parker, at Bournemouth, just because, again, Bournemouth haven't done a huge amount of business, and I think
do you not think the bar is going to be lowered because they have done no business?
For sure.
Of course, spent no money, just got Ryan Fredrickson on a free.
I do, but I also think October, November time is that kind of time when, if there is a team that's like rock bottom of the table, owners start to panic, and I feel like I just feel like who knows? I feel like they're a bit of an unknown entity in some ways, because yeah, obviously they were good in the Championship last term, but yeah, I kind of feel like Bournemouth, for me, have the weakest squad in the league, and yeah, that could be a factor.
I think they're pretty bloody sensible takes, mate.
Yep.
Next in the favourite to be sacked, fourth bottom, Brendan Rodgers at 15-2, Marco Silva 9-1, and then we have some of McCubbs' shouts: Bruno Lage, Scott Parker, Eddie Howe at 12-1. And also Thomas Tuchel and Steven Gerrard at 14-1. We'll get that in there because you're a Chelsea boy. What do you make of the rest of the list, and who is your favourite for the chop then?
Yeah, Marco Silva was the kind of guy that I was thinking about. And maybe less so him getting sacked, more him maybe walking.
Really?
He's not been happy with
Pre-season preparations.
pre-season preparations, Fulham's transfers. He wanted a lot more in, especially when a lot have left. Losing Carvalho obviously was huge, and they needed someone in to replace him. They've obviously got Solomon in now, but they needed more, and they've needed a centre back for ages. They can't go into the Premier League season again with Tim Ream. We've seen that happen several times, and seen what the knock-on effect is. And so I can see him getting frustrated and maybe being ill, and maybe going, you know what, I can't keep doing this, and moving on. As for someone like Eddie Howe, I think that is also an interesting shout. If things don't go according to plan for the first maybe 10, 12 games of the season, Newcastle will look there. And there is that supposed rumour that Jose Mourinho and Newcastle have been talking about a possible management takeover at Eddie Howe's first kind of bit of unsuccessful time. And so, especially like Newcastle haven't yet to splurge all the money that we might have expected them to in the summer so far. As you mentioned, there's still a month left of the window, so they could do so.
But they have targets, haven't they? Like Ekiteke.
Yeah. Indeed, but they have brought in some big names. Obviously, they spent a decent amount in January. They've brought in Sven Botman. Nick Pope's a fantastic signing in goal. And if things didn't quite start as the ownership want them to next season, and then maybe they're say 16th, 15th come say October.
Do you reckon Jose Mourinho takes that job though? Because I feel like he's leading such a great career revival at Roma. Like, does he throw that all away just to come back to the Premier League where he's his stock's never been lower.
Particularly with Paulo Dybala coming into Roma, it feels like this is Jose Mourinho's last hurrah, his last chance to put together a really great side that can push and challenge for a league title. Although people are
wait till we talk about Serie A later on.
Strengthening significantly in the Serie A at the top end of the table, aren't they? I mean, we're not just upon Brendan Rodgers there. Obviously, Leicester, I think they were very fortunate to finish in the top half of the table last season. And if we want to talk about teams, inactivity in the summer, Leicester, of course, yet to sign anyone. I think it was only Leicester and Girona in Europe's top 5 leagues that were yet to register a new player. I think Girona might have done that since. So it leaves Brendan Rodgers' men standing alone. And Atalanta look like they're signing Lookman. And I thought that was like a nailed-on deal for Leicester. Brendan Rodgers was speaking about him in May as someone that was, very much worth making permanent. I think it was quite a low ball figure as well, 14 mil. He was going to provide, decent cover for Harvey Barnes on the left-hand side. Sometimes deployed him on the right, although I didn't feel the right was his strongest position. Leicester's still pretty weak in that flank. But Brent, we covered Leicester quite extensively, I think maybe last week, so let's not go over them too much. But I think the players coming back, if they're at full fitness, if he can keep his optimal 11 out, then I think Brendan Rodgers will avoid that heat. I think there's high caliber players in that squad.
As long as they're in the top half.
Yeah, even if players aren't coming in. I think that Scott Parker and Eddie Howe will probably get a little bit more rope than a lot of names down there. Ralph Hasenhüttl at Southampton has spent £50 million this summer.
Great survivor.
So there's probably more pressure on him than in previous campaigns because it's the first time.
Well.
Yeah, the first time they've made a significant net spend in quite some time. We'll move on to them in a while because they've made some interesting acquisitions. But I think your shouts are pretty sensible. If you had to go for one, who would it be?
Silva.
I'm gonna stick with Parker actually. I'm gonna stick with Parker.
Okay.
Nice. On Bournemouth being rubbish, but I feel like they might be. We'll see.
Jesse Marshall also a good shout. They have because they've strengthened significantly this summer. Steven Gerrard to finish 14th, having spent that much money. How long can that go on? I might go Gerrard just for shits and giggles. Right, let's move on to overachievers then. And a shining example of overachievers last season was Brentford, right? Who ended up finishing 13th above the likes of Aston Villa and Leeds, Southampton, so on and so forth. So do you think one of the sides that are coming up will be able to fit the billing here? Or do you think it'll be an existing team within the Premier League who we're going to see overachieve?
I think if you'd asked me this at the very end of the Championship season, I would have said Fulham. Like I really liked what Fulham had about them. Mitrovic has obviously just broken it, smashed the record. They looked really positive going up, and I've just mentioned obviously the kind of mess that they're in now, and again later on I'll probably speak about them a bit more. So I wouldn't go with Fulham. But one team that I am interested in, and they're trying their best, bless them, is Nottingham Forest. They've brought in a lot of players. The only thing with that worries me is they've brought in a lot of players. It takes a lot of time to gel. If you're making that many changes to the first team squad in the Premier League.
Sort of reminiscent of Fulham's window 2 seasons ago, right?
Indeed. And it could, you know what, it could go one way where they all absolutely smash it together and they do gel really, really quickly and they have improved their side massively. But I do kind of, that feels like a much less likely scenario than maybe it going a little bit wrong and managing to
I would sort of defend Forest in that they were, I don't know, not highly touted to come up, let's say. They overachieved to come up.
For sure.
So they needed a big squad turnover, more so than any other side I think that have come up in the last 4-5 years to remain competitive, or to at least give themselves a chance to stay up. Of course, they have spent £73 million. They have brought in 11 new players, or at least 11 first team
and they're
players.
Good players. Like they're good players.
Yeah.
Like is it Woney?
Awani,
he's a really interesting player. Like Liverpool fans before, who his previous club have mentioned that this is a guy that they believe can go all the way, and he had a decent season last year. This is his time back in the Premier League.
It was 15 goals in the Bully, wasn't it? Yeah.
So it's like it's a good signing. I think from outside looking in, there's no complaints over the people that they're signing. Nico Williams, like that was meant to be a guaranteed Fulham signing, and they've taken it from one of their rivals to bring him in. I mean, Fulham in the end ended up bringing in Babu from Wolfsburg, I think. But still, like it's a guy that has proven quality in the champ and should take him to the next level in the Premier League.
I think Forest were actually one of my shouts for this, and like again, it could go wrong. We could have egg on our face in a year's time where they finish bottom. But at the same time, I do think it's distinct from what Fulham did a few years ago. I feel like Fulham were operating in like a pre-COVID market a few years ago. Their approach was a lot more scattergun, I think. Whereas I feel like the signings that Forest have made, they've been kind of defence first and foremost, and they're players who seem to fit the shape that Steve Cooper's got. Like Niakate is a specialist left-sided centre back who can play on. Has been playing on the left of a back three at Mainz. Good goal threat as well. Again, Nico Williams can play at wing back. Actually, when you look at his numbers compared to Jed Spence, they're actually pretty similar. Awani, there's a lot of good feeling about him and how he can fit the system as well. So I do feel like we should give them a chance and not just say because Fulham did it and it failed that it will necessarily fail this time. But it is huge. Like, I mean, Steve Cooper's not like, this is probably the first time he's ever had to oversee something like this as a manager. So it will be really tough.
Interesting to see how Steve Cooper gets on as well as in the Prem, and whether he can kind of take it to that next level of being. Because if he has a fantastic season, like maybe that opens him up to a couple more jobs, like the next kind of Graham Potter per se.
Yeah, literally, I was going to say Graham Potter. It's got that same kind of vibe, hasn't he? Kind of young upstart. Brentford were my other shout, to be honest. You've mentioned them already, but like I do think they've improved. I think their transfer business has been once again really. Really solid this summer. Like they didn't have to do too much. They haven't. The thing is, they haven't had to sell their stars yet. Like I know there's still rumours about Newcastle going in for Ivan Toney. I think keeping him is obviously really, really important. Christian Eriksen is obviously a big loss, but I think they've upgraded in goal. I think they've upgraded at centre back. I think they will concede less as a result next season.
You think Strakosha's an upgrade on David
Raya?
Raya?
I think so. Yeah,
Really?
I think so. Yeah, personally, I think he's obviously massively experienced, really good shot stopper. No. We'll see if he can. We'll see what happens, but
sort of rediscover the form the Albanian from a couple of seasons ago, because he put up I think it might have been back-to-back seasons or 2 seasons in 3 at the very least where he had a post-shot XG of like +5. Yeah. So he had a great pedigree, didn't he? And then it's just not gone that well for him. Lazio last year or so, but I think a really solid free transfer. Ben Mee providing good defensive cover. Aaron Hickey, these are guys that can either push first team members or just provide really good depth as well, aren't they? But yes, they might
got amazing
struggle
depth at left wing back.
Creatively speaking, without Christian Eriksen, because he sort of did turn the tide a little bit, didn't he, when he signed from January onwards. So let's see if they go back into the market for a more creative player. But expected points had them 7th last year. They bought in. I forgot about Keane Lewis Potter. 18 mil. from Hull, and he was responsible, I think, for 36% of their output last season. I think I've got it down here. Sorry, 15 goals and assists in 46 starts, and that was really his. I think it was his second campaign in earnest around the first team, but he put up 46 apps, like I said. So he was a really prominent, really prominent member of the side.
And the player before that at Hull that was fantastic was Jared Bowen. And if he has any kind of
they had a pretty mixed pre-season though. Brentford. I think they beat Brighton, but got thrashed by Wolfsburg. I mean, I don't know the complexion of the lineups in those games, but it's been pretty hit and miss. Other candidates, my shout was probably Crystal Palace.
Okay. But what is your overperformance for them? Like, where do they have to finish this season that you think that makes them?
They have to go top half, don't they?
Yeah, top half of the table. But I think last season they played like a top half side, deserved to finish in the top half, and as a result, I think might catch a few people cold again this season, or might exceed expectations. Let's say
made some great signings.
Yeah, I mean, again, expected points had them down to 6th, and I don't want to just base all my opinions around expected points, but it was like. I don't think people really fully appreciate the job that Dougie Friedman, that Patrick Vieira had done last season, how quickly they embedded those talents, how good they were defensively.
Well, another year as well.
Outstanding defensively.
Another year with Anne's got a year under his belt at Palace. Gehi's got a year under his belt at Palace.
Tyreek Mitchell.
All these guys. And they're bringing in Richards, Decore in midfield, another brilliant signing. I think they're going to have to bank on one of the forwards having a fantastic season again. Like Zaha last year, probably I think went under the radar a little bit.
I think there's much more.
Season, didn't he?
I think there's much more to come. Yeah, took a lot of penalties though. Much more to come from Edouard, who I think put up 9 goals and assists in 18 starts. It was sort of displaced by Mateta and Benteke at various points when Vieira went with a bit more of a physical front three. But I think there's loads more to come from him, and that's not. I am a little bit partisan, of course, because I'm a Celtic fan, and I believe he can become a prolific player in the Premier League and make good on his potential, but I think he did well with the minutes he was given last season. Much more to come from him, and Zaha is in the final year of his contract and is desperate to play at a Champions League club. I think this could be a bit of a last dance scenario for him. He might even head out to the continent after this. There was obviously rumours with Roma, wasn't there, this summer. I feel like he could like take it up a notch, because he's practically playing for the next 3 or 4 years of his career. The stakes are high for him. And Gallagher, yes, they've lost him. He was prominent in the first team, put up a bunch of goals and assists. But Ebrechieze, I think, can pick up that mantle. We didn't see much from him last season, obviously coming back from a big old injury, and didn't get a lot of minutes because Gallagher was in the side.
Another season of Elise as well, like Elise who can get some more minutes under his belt, maybe even start a lot more games this season. Shout. And he's like that rumour about him having a 30 million buyout clause. I was surprised no one's even thought of taking action this summer for it.
So it's definitely more like juice they can squeeze from these players, and they still performed to that extent last season. It's pretty mad, really, given where they came from as such a defensive side under Hodgson. I've also put Southampton down. Okay. I mean, I know the last couple of seasons, and hasn't it all, they've started the campaign really well. I remember we did an explained video where I think they were at 9th place at the time, and they were pushing the teams above them and looked in great form. But they've made some really interesting signings, haven't they, Jalab? Who's caught your eye from their summer recruitment so far?
They've very much kind of gone back to their, like, I think Joe said it a few times, is instead of going out there and buying these huge names or names out on the continent, they've gone to the academies and kind of said, we'll take your player, we'll give you a little buyback option as well, we'll take him for cheap and you can buy him back for 25 million or 30 million down the road if you want to do that. One of the guys that I really like is Romario Lavia from Man City. He's a guy that I think he was like the second signing they brought in, I think. But it makes sense considering that Southampton have taken, I think, Man City's, I think he was one of their academy recruiters or part of the academy. Now he does all of their scouting.
He's got a great pedigree. Oh, you mean
technical, I can't remember his name, but he used to work for Man City's academy. They brought him in as like one of their recruitment. I think he's like head of recruitment now for Southampton.
Okay, and he identified Lavia straight away.
Exactly, yeah. Brought in a few of the Man City boys, because he's also brought in the goalkeeper Bazunu and a few others as well. But Lavia, like, I think it's a position which they've needed to improve on in midfield. Like, he'll partner, you'd like to think, with
Romeo.
Well, not just Romeo, but
Joe
also
Remo as well.
And Ward-Prowse too. Yeah. And so I think in terms of their future, I can only see it going two ways though. Like, they either overperform, or it goes
covering your bases,
or it goes tits up and they get relegated.
Yeah, I think Lavia is a really interesting signing because he comes with great pedigree. Arrived from Anderlecht when he was 16. I think signed a professional contract with City. That was his first professional contract, and sort of starred for the under-18s straight away. And I read that he only appeared for the under-18s 11 times before they were like, okay, let's bump this guy up to the under-23s. And then I think he won Player of the Season in his first year. And for Southampton to think he's first team ready now, I mean, that's a big old endorsement, isn't it? And for £11 million, he might not get, if he just puts up 1,500 minutes, that would be a solid campaign for him. But if he can help them at the base of midfield, then great. Like you said, Aribo, I know you're a fan of that signing.
Yeah, love that signing. Just like, I think he was potentially Rangers' best player last season. I don't know, like he's just obviously he's very tenacious. He has a bit of creativity in him. He's also pretty sound defensively, just very energetic. I don't know. I think he will just suit the Premier League really well, and will suit Hassan Hussel's style of play really well, won't he? I just think he's going to be an absolute workhorse, and I just think we'll give them that bit of bite, which I think they have been missing a little bit in midfield over the last couple of years. So yeah, I personally think Southampton will. The thing is with Southampton that I think because they are capable of going on like a 2-month mega run, like I think it's enough for them to stay up. I think when Hassan Hussel is down, like he can be down quite bad, but when he's on form, when he gets his players firing, they look quite unstoppable, and I think we will have that period of them. So I think they'll be a mid-table.
It goes back to what you were saying a minute ago. What do we quantify as an overperformance for Southampton?
It's hard to know with Southampton because it's like they're so
probably 10th to 12th. I would say it represents really solid progress given how much younger their squad has got. Like if they can improve on 15th with a younger squad, then that would be overperforming in my eyes.
And also, they kind of went. He started the season fantastically, Tino Livramento, and then got that injury. He'll be back eventually, and hopefully he can kind of dominate that right flank for them. And I also think they can expect more from Armstrong. I don't think Armstrong last year had a poor season.
2 Armstrongs.
Good point. Yeah, Adam Armstrong.
Not Stuart. He's solid.
I think they can expect much more from him, and maybe he's got that first season. The pressure kind of is, or not. At least the pressure is on him, but he's less worried obviously about it being the first season. Che Adams as well, he's always I think a decent Premier League player. So if they can get Adam Armstrong firing as well, then I think because he started the season alright, to be fair, Adam Armstrong, but it just kind of fell off a cliff. And so if he can continue like he did at the beginning, I think they'll definitely.
A 10-goal striker could be the difference, sure. Couldn't it? In terms of 15th or 12th. Bella Kotchap as well. Bochum came up last from the Bully 2, didn't they, last season? Then I think they ended up finishing 13th. I don't think he put in up loads of starts. It might have been 19 or 20, but put up huge defensive numbers when he did play. £9 million. He's a really interesting acquisition. And like you said, Joe Rebo, I think his versatility is probably a bit underrated. Can pretty much play anywhere in the midfield, can play on that right-hand side as well. So gives Arsenal a lot more options. And when his players get knackered, that is necessary, isn't it? Let's move on then to... Oh, actually, we've not picked...
Overachiever.
I'm going to go Palace.
This is going to be so
I'll come back to you. Have you got one?
I'll play it safe and go for Brentford rather than
Brentford
Forest.
again?
Nottingham Forest.
Okay, Forest. I like it. Let's maybe cover underperformance a little bit quicker because I think it's quite obvious to the guys at home why we would have picked them. I mean, my shortlist here: Aston Villa, Leicester, potentially Manchester United because of the way the summer's been going. Wolves for reasons we've touched upon already. Everton. What do we think from that batch?
Leicester and Wolves are my two.
Okay.
I mean, it's easy with Leicester, isn't it? They've not, they were poor last season. They've not made any business. They're very reliant on players coming back from injury and hitting top form again. I feel like at the moment they're destined for a bottom half finish. Wolves as well. I think in a similar boat in that sense. I actually put down West Ham here just because I think. I do quite like the business they've done this summer, but I think in order to stay in actual top 6 contention, which is what their aim is now, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're expecting. That's what David Moyes is expected to do. He's expected to
stay in the hunt for European football.
And it's really tough to do that 3 seasons on the bounce. So I kind of put them in there as well. I think they're quite reliant on Scamacca hitting the ground running. I actually have confidence that Scamacca, he looks like a great striker, but West Ham have struggled with the number 9 position in recent years.
Stylistically, a bit of a odd fit for them as well. Nothing like Antonio, right?
Yeah, he's quite a maverick. He's quite a good all-round striker, but it's difficult to see. Well, it'll be interesting to see kind of what he kind of develops into in that system. But like, I mean, he's got a banger in him. He's got like a screamer in him every few weeks. So like,
let's cover him for just a second, just in case you have any more insight on him. But I've seen him kind of miscategorized as a bit of a target man. Yeah. But from what I've watched, he likes to drop off into the channels. He works really hard defensively. He has got a nice little like flick. He's obsessed with back heels. He's got that nice little link
great
up.
Chest control as well, which Moyes loves. Obviously.
Link up play in him. So I think he's going to be a little bit more mobile than people are giving him credit for. Like Seb Alamark too, I think is wide of the mark. Yeah. But so you like it then?
Yeah, I think he's an exciting player. Like, and I'm quite surprised that West Ham were able to get him. Obviously, PSG were really interested in him before, weren't they? It kind of looked like he was going to go to one of the big Italian clubs as well, but that didn't happen. I think if Juve hadn't got Vlahovic in January, maybe we would have been looking at him at Juve. So yeah, he is really exciting. But I just think, on the basis that West Ham now have very high ambitions, like there is a possibility that they'll finish, say, 8th or 9th rather than 7th, and I think that will still be an underperformance by their standards.
Playing Conference League as well, which you expect them to get far in as well.
Yeah, and you know they were quite disappointed with their performance when they in European competition last year. So like I think. I mean, I say that they still advanced,
not making the final.
Not making the final. I think that, like, considering how their squad towards the end of the season. So I think that could be they could underperform.
So just might not be able to meet the very high bar they've set themselves in the last couple of years, which would be an underperformance, but also
it's harsh.
More understandable than some of the others. What are you saying, Zachary Jalab?
Chelsea. That's what I'm worrying about. Yeah, I worry.
Woof.
I worry for the boys. I do worry for the boys. And more so just not finishing in the top 4. Like Arsenal and Spurs have improved so much, and I think if Chelsea go for a bad patch, which they always do, they always go for a month where things aren't going their way. I think that could really, really affect them. But I mean, I just don't know. I don't know how to feel about Chelsea the upcoming season. And as you said, there's still a month left of the transfer window.
You're conflicted, aren't you?
You're surely going to get another centre back in, right? Like,
but it's also an attacker. It's also an attacker. Like I think Thomas Tuchel's really desperate for a right-sided forward who can like drive at opponents. And like I think he's like worried of like banking on someone like Callum Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic to do it again based on like. Oh well, less so Pulisic, so I think it's going to be a really interesting month before the end of the transfer window. So I do worry for them. United, I'm like, United would have to finish 8th for it to be an underperformance. I think 6th is like an absolute. I think expected, to be honest. Like that, I think there'd be.
I think had Ten Hag got all the targets he wanted, like had Frankie De Jong arrived to loads of fanfare, expectations would have been higher. He'll probably be judged as well. Just if you can maximise the current assets you have, right? If we see a much improved season from Jadon Sancho, if Anthony Martial is revived, if Marcus Rashford can rediscover his form from 2-3 seasons ago, people will say, okay, the results might not have been there, but he's getting the best out of these players, and it bodes well for the future. So he can win elsewhere, rather than just the Premier League table.
And United managers do get time, like I don't like. I think he
he'll be
as long as he doesn't feel too much he doesn't feel too much pressure himself, which I don't think he will. Like he seems like a pretty hardy guy. I think progress will look a bit different for United this year. Champions League I don't think is a realistic ambition at this point.
It's a weird one because I've said on videos before that if I was a United fan, if I could start seeing if United finish 6th. But you did start seeing an identity, like I'd be happy with that. But so many United fans, I feel like the majority have all come back to me and said that's not what they want. They expect in top 4. Maybe that's just the whole United theory.
Yeah, I mean, equally it is if Chelsea drop off, if say Arsenal don't quite make good on the signings they've made, we see Sancho and Rashford explode, which we have seen in the past. Suddenly October, November, they are in contention. But I think. With a month left of the transfer window, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like fireworks at the moment at United. But you never know.
Maybe Martinez can be that elite DM we've been crying out for ages, but also going into the season with this Ronaldo black cloud hanging over the squad as your only sort of out and out number 9. It is cause for concern. So who are we going to go for then? Underperformance.
We didn't even really speak about Villa as well. Villa have a potential.
Yeah, they've looked good pre-season, but
signings as well.
To spend
Kamara's good signing, yeah. Carlos.
Boubacar Kamara, I think we'll probably come to him shortly.
Underperformers.
I think if Villa had finished higher last season, then they would be a bigger shout. But I feel like where did they finish again? Like 11th, 12th, 14th. So it's like,
I think,
if they finish below 14th, not that that's like not that the position last season should dictate whether it's overperformance or underperformance, but like I would be surprised if they finished that low again.
But Dean Smith finished 11th, right? Yeah. And then they spent all that money. They bought in Buendia for like 34. They bought in Coutinho. They've just paid another 30 for Carlos. Like they for the outlay should be a top 10 side.
Yeah, for sure.
Dean Smith obviously lost his job for not finishing in the top 10 or looking like he was making significant progress. And then Gerrard came into a lot of fanfare. The press gave him a lot of bandwidth. And to end the season like they did, he's got to hit the ground running, I think, in the new season. I'm going to stick to my guns and go Wolves just because, although Wolves fans do assure me that they've changed it up to 4-2-3-1 in pre-season and they're playing a little bit more like Lage was at Benfica.
Yeah.
So, hopefully they prove me wrong, but not inspired by that squad in the slightest.
Yeah. I'm stuck between Everton and Leicester at the moment. I don't think Everton are going to get relegated, so I'll go with Leicester.
Okay. Cool. Well, I was thinking about Leicester. I'll stick with West Ham then.
Nice. I like it. A little bit harsh, but I like it. Breakout Star then we'll move on to. Now, just to get your juices flowing, last season my shortlist was, Gehi, Kilman, Livramento, Tariq Mitchell, Gallagher, Ramsey, Elise, Alanga, Smith Rowe, Martinelli. I mean, that's a hell.
That's a decent.
That's a hell of a class, let's say. That's a hell of a graduation from those boys. Who do we think this season can maybe live up to that billing, can emulate the way that those guys broke out in the Premier League? Have you got any?
I've got a list of 4 at the moment.
Oh, go on. Give us your 4.
I've got Palmer at Man City. Okay. Obviously, with Raheem Sterling leaving and Gabi Jesus leaving, I think there is the minutes.
I think get 200 minutes in the Premier League.
Well, so this is what we had this argument a couple of weeks ago on Sunday Vibes, and Man City fans were adamant he was going to be getting a lot more minutes than this season.
League minutes?
League minutes,
Maybe he'll get cup minutes, but I can't see him or Delap getting significant league minutes.
Because realistically, at the moment, it leaves him with Riyad Mahrez, obviously Bernardo Silva can play out there, Jack Grealish can play out there, Phil Foden can play out there. Haaland doesn't, but Palmer's more of a winger.
Palmer's more of a winger. Son from River Plate, whose name's escaping me.
Alvarez. But I do think, maybe we see a little bit of a rise of Palmer, but he's not going to be the one that takes it for me. Harvey Elliott or Carvalho at Liverpool are the 2 at the moment. I feel like Harvey Elliott's a little bit of a cheat code because last season we did see the beginning of Harvey Elliott and him playing right centre mid for Jurgen Klopp, and we didn't expect that at all. And then unfortunately he got that long-term injury that kept him out for a while. And so maybe this year he'll feature a lot more than he did last season. We can really start to see what we were beginning to see last season, which does look like a fantastic player. And who knows, maybe this year we'll see him get his England debut and all this kind of stuff. Though with Harry Kane in the squad, I don't know. We'll see how that works out. Yeah. And then Carvalho is like a guy that last season broke out. Like he the season before that he featured at the very end for Fulham in the Premier League. Then last year was amazing for them in the Championship. I do wonder how many minutes he's going to get. People have said in pre-season he's been featuring a lot. Jurgen Klopp is trusting him, and so maybe it's the same way that we saw Elliott last season with Jurgen Klopp, unexpectedly getting a lot of minutes. And he looks like the real deal. He looks like a fantastic player. He's got a good head on his shoulders, especially from what you've told me from meeting him as well.
I know him well. I've interviewed him once.
And I think this year could be a guy that he could be one of the guys that we see and unexpectedly good.
Particularly Firmino. These links to Juventus are true, which, by the way, if he moves for £90 million, feels like a sensational bit of business from the Italians. Maybe we'll discuss that in a minute when it comes to best signing. But he could get minutes at 10. There has been rumours that Klopp, who's never forayed away from the 4-3-3, might deploy a 4-2-3-1, and Carvalho might get minutes at 10, although I think he's featured on the left-hand side a little bit in pre-season, so that might be in his thinking as well. But also because some of the big hitters haven't returned and were given extra breaks and so on and so forth. It's interesting you mentioned Cole Palmer. They've got McAtee and Delap as well for Man City. 3 youngsters who I wanted to see get loan moves this season. Just to touch upon that very briefly, and you've kind of mentioned it already. Southampton bid 16 mil for Delap. It was knocked back, which I was really surprised with, particularly if they were willing to include a buyback option. Just because I can't see them getting significant minutes in the league they're obviously really high caliber players and really well thought of because they train within the first team at City. But yeah, I just think they must be a little bit, well, Delap particularly must be a little bit annoyed that he's been denied a route to first team football, even though...
Especially when he nearly went on loan last season
Guardiola rates him highly.
He nearly went to Stoke City last season, and in the very end...
That feels like a fair bid as well, 16 mil.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you, mate?
Yeah, well, on the subject of Southampton, the guy I've picked out, Sekou Mara, who completed his move to Southampton from Bordeaux.
I know nothing about this guy.
3 days ago, £11.7 million, 19-year-old centre-forward. Again, yeah, he's not someone I knew a lot about until very recently, but I think someone who's put up the numbers that he did at a Bordeaux side who were dreadful last year. It's one of the reasons why I love Yassine Adli, who's gone back to Milan.
Actually,
now.
Didn't he get like 6 goals in 8 starts, this kid?
Oh, yeah, he did. So 905 minutes, 6 goals. I think 1 was a penalty, but his underlying numbers look great. 3.6 shots per 90, 0.45 XG. This is for a team who I think ranked either bottom or second bottom for XG in Ligue 1 last season, obviously went down and are currently appealing going down again, obviously due to kind of their financial situation. He's also really hard working. He makes 22 pressures a match, so I think he'll be well suited in terms of work rate to this Hasenhüttl side, but also he just looks like a really good technical player, and I'm quite surprised that obviously Southampton are pretty good at picking out these kind of players, but kind of surprised that there wasn't more hype around him going into the summer, because like, at least when you look at his highlights, I've not seen many full 90s of him, partly because he has a lot of sub minutes as well, but he just looks like a player who he's able to kind of hold the ball up. He's got good defensive work rate and can kind of pass out from the back if he needs to come back.
Just think he's just going to sit that transition game really well.
Got really good awareness. And I feel like a lot of players who come out of Ligue 1, a lot of young attackers, they do seem to have that kind of slight maturity beyond their years. When you see them play and when you see them operate in the final third, he's obviously still raw, but you can already see those that kind of intelligence there. So I think he could be quite exciting, and at a club like Southampton where the striking positions are not set in stone. Obviously we saw Brozier get a lot of minutes last season. I feel like he will get a fair amount of minutes under Hasenhüttl. I think that will be really, really important. So I'm really excited to see what he can do.
Nice. I don't think I've got anyone else down here that we haven't really covered.
I think Levi Cole was another one, whether that's at Chelsea or another Premier League club.
Yeah, good shout. We've mentioned Keno Spot before, Aaron Hickey. Julio Enciso, the pickup from Brighton. I think he could be interesting just because Brighton's centre forward position's not nailed on.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been what they've been lacking the last 18 months, 2 years. So it feels like he might get a chance. I might be wrong there though. So give me your definitive one before we move on.
Carvalho.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe shout.
Yeah, I'll go Sekou Mara.
Like you've said, Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, you can't really go wrong with them. Most improved player then. And I think this can be interpreted a few ways. So let's really define what we mean by this. Because at the end of last season, most people would have gone Joe Linton, wouldn't they? They would have gone most improved player. What a renaissance. Great narrative that. So I feel like most improved player does gravitate towards these comeback stories. Like players who were maybe not as good last season, that we're going to back to be better this season. So in my more to come from mini list, I've already mentioned Edouard at Palace. I've got Patson Daka at Leicester, Buendia at Villa. Maybe if we're going to look at the top end of the table, Jack Grealish and Jadon Sancho at City and United respectively. Only 6 goal contributions from them pair and cost an awful lot of money, and they can do much better by their own accord. Dele Alli, does anyone back him to become a Premier League force again? That would be a big shout.
I've given him too many chances.
William Saliba finally given his chance at. Not that he had a great season at Marseille. Not that he has to prove he's a good player to anyone, but he's effectively looks like he's resurrected his Arsenal career. So what do we think to this category?
I think the problem with Saliba is that I just still don't know whether he's going to be starting that much.
Well, George said he is going to, and I'm pretty sure he picks the team. So.
Okay, interesting. But I just who makes way out of Gabriel and Ben White in that back?
Ben White in pre-season has been playing at right back at times.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
At times.
And what's also interesting is that Saliba was taking up kind of positions, kind of almost kind of on the right, even going into midfield for Marseille last year. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. But I've actually picked Sancho. It's quite an obvious shout,
Yeah.
but I just think he's ready to explode. And under a world-class manager that he's going to be, he's played on the right again in pre-season, which has been really good to see. Because I kind of feel like last year, Solskjaer didn't really know how to use him. Rangnick, I did think more, but I kind of feel like because Rangnick was only there for a certain amount of time, he was just like, I'm just going to play you on the left because that's what works in what is a very dysfunctional side. And obviously, when you play Sancho on the left, he provides a bit more of a goal threat. He can cut inside, but I still think creatively he's best on the right. And I think if Ten Hag has got him playing well in pre-season on the right, which I think he has, I think that could be really exciting. Just for the United attack in general, and I think we can kind of finally see Sancho actually bring to this team what he was bought to bring, and he was just misused in the first half of last year. So I'm very I'm just really
bullish
excited. I'm excited to see what he'll do. I think he will have a really good season.
I think this is a category we can be fairly quick on. We've been recording for 42 minutes. If you're wondering why I keep looking down there, it's because no one's behind the camera. Hopefully this is recorded to a solid degree. But who would you go for then before we fly into best sign?
Yeah, I mean, Jack Grealish was the guy that was in my mind for a while for this. I think we've spoken about it a million times about how wingers at Man City, when they join, the first season's never really that amazing. In the second season, once they understand Pep's system and have a year working within that system and under the management of Pep Guardiola, they just become a next level player. Like, there's too many examples. Bernardo Silva was one of them, for instance. Now look at him. And I think Jack Grealish, with, again, less competition from, say, Gabby Jesus, from Raheem Sterling, he's going to be that starting left winger. And I think with Erling Haaland up top, like, he's just going to be creating a ridiculous amount of chances. They've already in pre-season been linking up fantastically well. I think he's a guy who, because considering he was bought for £100 million, we may start to be like, well, that is that £100 million signing.
Was Phil Foden his main opposition on the left-hand side? Because he was also playing left central midfield as well, wasn't it?
I feel like Foden played through the middle as well a bunch of times. Like, he gets kind of put wherever he's needed.
I think that was the thing, wasn't it? Though I feel like when he was signed last year, there was this idea that him and De Bruyne were going to be these like two kind of roaming number 8s, and Rodri just kind of clean up behind them. It never really happened. But now there is just a lot more space, isn't there? There's just a lot more opportunity on that left hand side. Indeed.
But I'm not going to go for him. I'm not going to. I think it's too easy to go for Jack Grealish. Like, we've said it too many times. I'm going to go for Marcus Rashford.
Okay.
It's a bit of a shout, like, because it could end up that he only gets like 6 goals at the end of the season, and Joe's just taking the mick out of me. But like, I'm hoping to see under Erik ten Hag the revival of Marcus Rashford, because we have seen it before. Like, I remember the season 2, maybe 3 years ago. Whilst he was carrying the back injury, he was literally carrying Manchester United through every single game. It was either let's give it to Marcus Rashford and hope he can score a screamer.
Was it 17 league goals?
Yeah, 17 league goals, along with Martial as well.
It was a ridiculous season, and unfortunately, obviously, we've seen since then the drop off in not for club but also the country as well. He used to be one of the first names on the team sheet, and with the World Cup coming up, maybe you do start to see a revival and possibly arguing for a starting place.
He's starting this season in good health, isn't he? Which
Indeed,
is important. He had an operation on his shoulder, didn't he, at the start of last season, or at least in like October, November time.
But he carries so much pressure, because I think the United fans all want to see the revival, but when he isn't performing, he gets a lot of stick.
He's held to
he gets a lot of stick. Indeed, but that is because of that season where he was carrying you guys, and everyone believed in him so much, and he was the best player for Manchester United. And now, when he isn't performing to that level or performing as well, he obviously gets a lot of stick.
On Twitter are like, oh, how dare he try and be a better person off the pitch as well. If you're going to be a better person and support worthwhile causes, then
score goals.
You better be so consistent on the pitch, otherwise it will be labelled as a distraction, and you'll be put on a pedestal for being sanctimonious. But I'm going to go with Patson Daka.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Because only 1,200 minutes last season. I think it was 0.51 goals and assists per 90. Pretty solid. People mislabeling him a bit of a flop, put him in the same categories as Samare, who obviously did not have the desired effect. Jamie Vardy will be 35 in January, if memory serves me correctly.
Still starting at the end of the season.
And we'll probably only make 20 starts at best, let's say. So I think, the contribution that Dakar could put forward could be season defining for Brendan Rodgers, particularly if they don't make any attacking additions. Him and Iheanacho are great options to have on the bench, and I still think underused, the pair of them. So I'm going to go for Dakar. Let's move on to best signing. Now, I've just put here too subjective for research. So I've not got a shortlist down for you because, where do we even start with this? And who do you think it is?
I mean, it depends what your best signing, as you mentioned, it's so subjective. Like, is the best signing, like, if City didn't sign Erling Haaland, they're probably still going to win the league, or they're still going to finish first or second. But I guess signing Haaland gives them the kind of or for me, feels like the guarantee of winning the league.
Yeah, should we say that Haaland's the showstopper? He's grabbed all the headlines. He could go off in the Premier League.
I feel like we haven't discussed Haaland because we've discussed him too much for the last month or whatever. Like,
everyone's a bit sick of it.
Yeah, we spent a whole season speaking about
Should we sort of define this then as the signing that improves their team the most, thus making them the best signing, or does that make it a little bit convoluted?
I think Gabby Jesus
I kind of agree.
Is a ridiculous signing. Like for a while, especially the second half of the season when Arsenal lost to Bammy or split up with Aubameyang,
split up,
and you saw how desperately they needed that kind of like focal point in the middle where everything can go towards, and also someone that can play with the ball and give it out. And it's just like the ideal signing. I think Zinchenko's actually another guy who's been brilliant. I like all of Arsenal signings really for the past 2 seasons now. But Gabby Jesus, like, they got him for a really good price. He seems to be absolutely, from the interviews, he seems to be absolutely committed to the club, saying about how much he enjoyed his conversations with Edu and working with Mikel Arteta again. And just the idea of that front four of Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli when he is fit, and hopefully he does have a good season with fitness, and Gabby Jesus,
tasty.
Is
tasty,
not just tasty for now, tasty for the next 4 seasons and some.
They've got Vieira as well, Smith Rowe.
But I think, for Gabby Jesus, I think he could end up finishing the season with, say, 16 goals and 8 assists or something like that. Like
24 goal contributions
really wouldn't shock me.
Mate.
If he stays fit, that's the big one.
But I think, he's obviously going to be, he's going to be like starting every game, isn't he? You'd expect, which is huge for him. And like that, I think creatively that Arsenal forward line is only going to get better and better. Like Saka, took a big step up last year, didn't he? Odegaard obviously grew into the season lows. Obviously with the option of Fabio Vieira as well, you've got a slightly different dynamic to that attack if he is to play.
Saka's only going to be 21 this season.
Yeah, it's mad. I think Jesus is a real game changer for them, especially the fact if they still had Aubameyang, then not necessarily, but you really saw I like Lacazette as a player, but as a centre forward in a Premier League side, in a top 4 or 5 Premier League side, he just doesn't. His finishing kind of went out the window, didn't it, towards the end of the season? And I think to have someone like Jesus, who's has obviously had amazing kind of coaching at City. I think if you lay on the chances, he is just going to score them, isn't he? And obviously, but I think him and Arteta had a really good relationship at City as well. So it's hard to look past him. I had someone else in mind as well, but they've completely escaped me. So what do you reckon, Hamill?
I think with this, I always gravitate towards the high stakes. Is there a player that's going to win someone the league, or bump them up a position, or help them qualify for Champions League football, or is there a player that's going to keep a side out of the relegation dogfight or in the league altogether? And in that sense, you're looking at some of maybe Forest signings. You're thinking it's high risk, but if Jesse Lingard gets 10 goal contributions and keeps Forest up, is that going to be signing of the season, despite everyone maligning how much he's paid? But we'll see. We'll see how that unfurls at the end of the season. And then I thought there was room at Tottenham.
Haven't spoken about Tottenham.
Because they've not really made any they've made solid signings, haven't they? Basuma is going to shore up that midfield. Perisic, I think, will prove an upgrade on Reguilon at left wing back. Jed Spence at right wing back. If his progress continues in the same sense it did last season, will he be an upgrade on Emerson Royale? Either way, that's a good competitive right-hand side now. But when they were linked with Bastoni, I thought, if they sign someone of that calibre, I was then I can see them finishing third. Particularly given Chelsea's summer, I was so I was waiting for a signing like that to happen, Bastoni, or maybe Skriniar's been linked with Chelsea now, but around that, the most competitive area of the Premier League now feels like the race for third.
Defo, man.
So I think in that sense, Jesus is a great answer because he is I think it will mean that Arsenal catch up with the best of the rest after Man City and Liverpool tenfold. Okay, so I think that's a solid answer. Oh, of course, there is some other transfers in the offing. I think if Firmino goes to Juve.
Yeah, Nunez.
19 mil. Yeah, he is, but I think there's an understanding that maybe like he will go off not next season, the season after, right? Yeah. Firmino to Juve, McNeil to Everton, Kostic to West Ham still in the offing. I think McNeil's been confirmed now, right? But they're all solid signings. Yeah. Nowhere near best signings, but just to throw some other names in the hat. Worst signing? I mean, let's be really quick about this. I think we've been filming for 51 minutes.
But Andres Pereira to Fulham. Stinking. I don't know, like... Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Marco Silva will be able to get some great stuff out of him, but he's never really convinced in the Premier League. And joining a Fulham side, which really needs players to perform quickly next season. Yeah, 8.5 million as well. It seems like a bit of an overpay for him, personally.
Okay. Good shout.
God, yeah, I can't really think of anyone that's worse than Pereira, to be honest, at the moment. I like Tarkowski. I like...
Starting of the season.
That's it. Too fair, but possibly. I'll go Pereira.
All right, let's give it to my Cubs then, just in the interest of getting through the rest of these categories. Premier League winners.
Man City.
Yeah, it's boring, but it's just the safest option, isn't it? Like I think there'll be like 3-4 points in it, maybe, or maybe less. Like I do think Liverpool are going to be
run them close,
fantastic next season. But I just think it's just Man City, isn't it? Like that they've won 4 of the last 5. It's just it would be silly not to back them in that sense.
Yeah, fair amount of change across that forward line as well. They're without a Sadio Mane in his prime. Like I do think, had they kept Mane, it'd be an awful lot closer, and I might be more conflicted with my answer. But I'm going to go Manchester City as well. Yeah. Rest of the top 4 then. So let's just assume that Man City first, Liverpool second. Who are your other 2 that are qualifying for Champions League football?
Very tough. I think it's.
So bite your nails.
I'm not.
I think Spurs will finish 3rd or 4th, and then it's going to be Arsenal or Chelsea. Oh,
so I have here City, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea/Arsenal.
It's not an answer.
I think you know what, Arsenal have done amazing business, and I think they will probably spend a lot of the season in the top 4. But I just kind of feel like Thomas Tuchel is just a better manager than Arteta across the league season. Chelsea will sort out their defence before the transfer window ends. I think they will just about edge it.
You have to take a leap of faith with Chelsea at this point, don't you? With a month left in the window.
Sterling's a big signing for them as well.
Screw
I think.
Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal.
Oh, there we go.
Spurs don't
out.
make it.
Really?
Spurs don't make it.
Okay.
Screw it. Because I actually think Conte towards the end of the season last year, like they were very flip-flop Spurs. Like there were games where they weren't performing well, and they obviously they do have Harry Kane. They do have
the thing. Son and Kane make a big difference, don't they?
Don't matter.
I think the thing is with Spurs is that like everyone's been bigging them up so much over the last few weeks. It feels like it feels wrong not to put them in the top 4, but like there is every chance they do mess it up. Like there is every chance they mess it up.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's going to be more rotation with Arsenal in the Europa League than there will be with Spurs and the Champions League, right?
Conte's rubbish in the Champions League, so they'll probably finish bottom of their group and they won't have anything else to focus on.
But formidable in the league, So I'm going to go, Man City, Liverpool. I'm going to... At the moment, I don't think I would disgrace myself going Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea, just because I do think, the current complexion of Chelsea's squad, it's a sensible answer. It's a sensible answer.
The only thing that I think if Chelsea can get someone scoring goals, like if Kai Havertz can get double figures of goals, and like Raheem Sterling can, I think that changes.
But we can only go off previous
seasons. For sure. I completely agree. I'm not going to argue against you for putting us 5th.
Because I just think a full season out of Kulusevski. They've got Richarlison now as backup. We've not even spoken about Richarlison really on this show. So they will be able to rest Kane. They will be able to rest Son, whereas all the pressure's been on them in previous seasons. Like, Christ, if Richarlison can sustain his Everton form, put up 10, 11 goals in that Spurs side, I think that is probably enough to put them to secure a top 4 position. But anyway, we're spending fucking ages on this. Let's move on. Top goal scorer.
Mo Salah.
Oh.
My God, Mo Salah. Yeah, really boring.
Haaland.
Yeah.
No World Cup.
Haaland missed 40%
Mo
of the
Salah
last
doesn't have a
season.
World Cup either.
Very true, very true.
Haaland missed 40% of the last season. So I think that's going to probably continue. At least, he'll probably miss 20, 30% of it.
Haaland.
All right, sticking with Haaland. I'm going to go Harry Kane then, just to mix it up.
Literally the top 3 options there.
And Son are probably the best player in the league. Relegation.
Oh, this is a really tough one.
Bournemouth bottom, Fulham second bottom, Leeds.
Ooh, so yours. Forest
I'm backing. Why not?
at the cost of
Why not?
Jesse Marsh's men.
Big squad turnover at Leeds, isn't there?
And it could change as well, depending on if Fulham sign a few players before the end of the window. I think as well.
I was amazed. Leeds have signed so many players and still.
Brendan Harrison, Tyler Adams, good young players with great pedigree as well.
Yeah, I really like Mark Crocker as well. I really hope he does well. I've gone Bournemouth. I've got the same bottom two. I'm backing Forest to stay up. This might be stupid. And also this could also be really stupid.
I love this. Go on, mate.
Wolves in 18th.
Me and you are not a fan of Wolves.
Really
I love
not.
it. Bonded over a hatred of them.
Yeah, we could look very silly with this. Like they could come in and
Wolves
just be great this season. But like I think you got to go for one rogue.
Traore has a renaissance. They're actually playing nice, free-flowing, attacking football. I'm very willing to change my opinion on Wolves. Although like paying £5 million not to sign Trincao is hilarious. I think he has gone to Sporting Lisbon though.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah.
Or Sporting CP. Sorry, did not mean that. Sporting CP fans. Jesus. So that means they get 3 mil back. Bournemouth, Fulham. And I just don't think at the moment Forest have done quite enough to survive. They're coming from such a deficit with the quality of their squad, and they've lost like so many key components. It's not a settled the spine of that side is not settled. They lost Garner, they lost Spence. Brendan Johnson's great, but what's his name? The striker, he's gone on a free this season. Formerly highest paid player at the team. Lewis Graben, I think he was quite prominent in the changing room. They've lost a bit of a figurehead in him. I don't know. I just don't think they've done quite enough yet, but almost. And that's a big credit to their recruitment team. Let's just skate over the EU then, because no doubt you will do it on Continental Club. But
next week.
Can you hit me up with your La Liga, Bully, Serie A and Liga, and then we're going to do it that way?
Yeah, quite boring. La Liga, I think Real Madrid will probably still edge it. I think Barcelona will give them a good go. Bayern Munich, I think, will still win the Bully, unfortunately. I think Leipzig will give them a really good run. I think Borussia Dortmund as well. Obviously, really sad news about Haller. He was a real game changer for them. Serie A, I think Inter. I think they've just got the best squad.
Nice.
I think Milan haven't done enough business so far this summer. Yeah, almost nothing. And Juve have improved, but I still don't think they're as good as Inter, and Lukaku's back there as well. Liga and PSG, obviously. Don't need to go anywhere more with that. What are we saying? Champions League?
We'll do Champions League, Europa League, Conference League after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who have you got down for the best of the rest?
Basically the exact same, but with Serie A, I wanted to have a bit of fun. I've gone Roma.
Okay.
Back in your boy
Jose, Renaissance.
your boy Jose.
That very much. It does say Inter.
Also, I think there are a few. I think there will be a few people out there saying the same thing. Like, I feel like there's a really good feeling about Roma at the moment. Isn't there?
And just that video Dybala. I think that video Dybala just got me in there. I was like, oh, look at the fans. Why not?
Swept up in it.
Yeah, him and Tammy will be an interesting combination. Won't they?
I think they're all really sensible. I think if AC do sign like the Ketelare, if they do bring in Ziyech, which it looks like they're on the cusp of doing, then I would still put them forward as favourites, but only with the caveat that they make those two signings. Otherwise, I'm in full agreement with you. And Dortmund, their recruitment was so good, and with Haller at point, that I did think we might have a title challenge on our hands for the first time in a long time when it comes to the Bundesliga, because I think like Bayern's summer has been good, like solid if unspectacular, whereas Dortmund got like the business on early doors. It was incredible.
Lewandowski as well for Bayern. I guess that's going to be a really interesting.
Let's move on. Champions League, Europa League, Conference League. I mean, I actually haven't mentally registered who is in the Conference League at the moment.
Well, there's not many teams.
There's not many,
so
there's always
the Conference League at the moment is Villarreal, West Ham.
They're the favourites, are they?
Basically.
Okay, let's strike Conference League, and we'll revisit that on an episode of Continental Club.
Yeah.
Champions League, Europa League then.
I've actually gone for.
We're laughing, it's not good.
I've gone for Barcelona Champions League.
No, I refuse to.
You're wrong, mate.
I'm just putting it out there. Champions League, like it's always really hard to call the Champions League. The sensible one would be Man City, but they always mess it up. So why not Barcelona? Lewandowski. Lewandowski's like, one of the greatest strikers in the Champions League history. They've got him now. Like they've got quite a deep squad now, Barcelona. And I think they'll be raring to go. They could go out in the last 16, but I also think you never know. So going for them.
I think this could be City's year, but I'm not going to say them because it's boring. So Chelsea.
Okay.
I need to back them in
Even
some way.
roguish out, I think.
I need to back them somewhere.
Yeah, these are the real stabs in the dark, aren't they? I'm gonna go City Champions League because of Haaland. You're right, it is boring. And Europa League, I mean, I might just say Sevilla.
Oh, I went
Are they in
Arsenal.
the Champions League?
It's the Champions League.
I backed them to get knocked out
Yeah,
at the group stage in the Champions
yeah.
League.
Classic.
Last 32, go on to win it just because, like, I don't have any stronger foundation than that. Let's go to quickfire then, because we have been filming for a long time, and we did want to dedicate this segment to the Women's Euros, bit of takeover. I just wanted to ask you, gentlemen, who has been your player of the tournament so far? And I want to give you a bit of context, because I've got 3, all right? Because 3 players have registered 5+ goal involvement so far at the Women's Euros. All of them Lionesses, all of them playing for England. So big up the Lionesses. We've got Beth Mead, 6 goals, 4 assists. Alessia Russo, 4 goals, 1 assist. One of them goals wise, that is, being that outrageous back heel. And also Fran Kirby.
I'm going to go with Beth Mead.
Okay.
Her delivery into the box is quite frankly ridiculous. Like, I was watching some of them, and just in general, her play in general was fantastic. But her delivery into the box for the strikers, I'm just sitting there and thinking, it's like a peach. Like, it's the perfect point every single time to put away, and it's like
Whippers, walnut whip.
But also, like, it's like not necessarily all headers and stuff like that. They're perfect for like volleys and all just finding the perfect recipient. Yeah, perfect. And like just on the ball, fantastic. And obviously she's been finding the net as well. Brilliant.
I like it.
Yeah, great finish against Sweden the other night, wasn't it? I'm actually going for a non-England player. I must say I haven't watched enough of the women's Euros as I would have liked. I was away for 2 weeks. No one was showing it in Croatia. They didn't really care about it there.
Step up Croatia.
Yeah, but. So I wasn't able to. I was only really able to watch the first few group games and then watch the semis this week. But Alex Popp, like German centre forward, like amazing. Like, I mean, her 2 goals against France, I just thought were just like, just world class centre forward play. I think she's joint top scorer with Beth Mead now. I think they've either broken the record. I'm
Beth
not quite
Mead
sure.
is tied as the record.
So
for most goals scored at the Women's Euros Championship.
And I think Pop's now scored in 5 consecutive games, which is a new record. She also amazing. Like, this is her first year. I don't know that it's her first Euros, but she missed the last 2, which were in 2013 and 2017. She's now 31. She's kind of one of those experienced heads in that side, which is only obviously she's a centre forward, but they've only conceded that 1 goal, haven't they, against France? But like, I don't know, I was just really impressed to get with her against France. Like, super clinical, just amazing movement in the box, and I think she's going to cause England some real problems in the final.
I knew you'd bring some continental flavour to the show eventually, mate. I like that you frayed away from England, because I've only really watched the England games, but I think Leah Williamson at the back, her distribution,
captain as well.
She's an absolute metronome. And I love defenders that are just so comfortable on the ball, that spring, attacks that really supercharged build-up play, and she is that for England, while Millie Bright next to her
so
is
young
just an
as
absolute
well.
rock. Yeah,
she's captain of England, 23, 24.
She's 25, she didn't feature that prominently until like 2-3 years ago, did she?
It's mad, and now she's like leading the line, like she's controlling that defence. Like, fair play to her.
Yeah, I think moment of the tournament has to be for me, the back heel from Russo. Absolutely outrageous. And predictions for the final, which I'm going to. Say hello if you see me there today. I know.
He wants to say Germany.
I don't want to say Germany.
Let's touch wood before we do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have asked this question if Doogie was on the show either. The living curse, but
England.
You got to back England.
Yes.
I can't. You got to throw any kind of logic out the window. England have been amazing. They have been amazing. My one worry is that England are more of a risk-taking team, but I back them to be a bit more closed off on the flanks to Germany. I was a little bit worried by Lucy Bronze in the first half against Sweden. I must admit, she contributed great in the final third, but she was a bit shaky defensively in that first half, which is very unlike her. I'm going to back England 2-1. Why not?
Okay, is that the scoreline?
2-0 England.
Okay, I'm going to go 1-1. England
God.
to win in extra time.
Okay, I thought you were going to say penalties.
No.
Not again. Not again.
Not again. They're going to vindicate us as a nation in penalties. That's what I'm going
That would
for.
be amazing.
Okay, that is the end of the show. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for sending the categories in to the boys on the Discord once more. If you want to join the Discord, there is a link in the description below. What should people watch out for from Football Daily or Football Daily at home?
Why not check out We Talk, where I made my own fantasy Premier League, my own FPL
Nice.
team, and I also rated some of yours at home. It was very interesting, and I had a lot of decisions to make, and I'm not good at making decisions.
I stick by that Declan Rice is in a decent acquisition at £5 million. Well,
Yeah, not bad actually. Not bad.
what are you going for?
What am I going for? I've put Michael Elisa in my team actually, but I'm not sure whether I'm actually going to. What in terms of
Videos.
Yeah,
videos?
videos. Let's just go through your whole team now, mate. It's 20 minutes longer. Yeah.
The football pyramid final was yesterday between myself and Patrick Van Straten. Classic showdown. Go and check that out on Euro
And
Football Daily.
There's a little surprise at the end of the video
Ooh.
that people need to make sure they watch.
So watch till the end.
Bye.